Rosa Parks is the woman who refused to give up her seat on the bus. It was 1955, it was the segregated South, and it was the start of the Montgomery bus boycott. From that moment on, Rosa Parks became an icon in the civil rights movement. But for a long time, we haven't known much about her as a regular person. Is that Rosa Parks on a yoga mat? A few days ago, I went to see a new exhibit at the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C. It's called Rosa Parks in Her Own Words, and it shows a very different Rosa Parks than the woman we learned about in history class.
She was a radical. She maintained a calm demeanor, but beneath the surface was always that militant spirit, and that buoyed her and that guided her throughout her life.
Adrienne Cannon curated this exhibit, and she says that militant spirit was instilled in Rosa Parks when she was a very small girl.
The right of self-defense was stressed in the home. You can see in that early sketch, childhood incidents and experiences, she opens it with talking about the Ku Klux Klan riding through the community, terrorizing Black families, burning churches and homes in the aftermath of World War I, and that she sits up at night, fully dressed with her grandfather, keeping visual over the home. They often sat up all night long because they couldn't take the chance of being caught off guard. And she says that she wanted to see him kill a Ku Kluxer.
She says that?
She says that as a child. The first one that entered our house would surely die. And she says that she wanted to see him kill a Ku Kluxer. The first one that entered our house would surely die. The first one that entered our house would surely die. The first one that entered our house would surely die.
Yes, you automatically, it's called Victims Guaranteed Qualification. I have that in my book called The Counter-Racist Word Guide. Victims Guaranteed Qualification. Every victim of racism is qualified to say anything that he or she wants to say about race, racism, or counter-racism, and no other victim should try to critique it, knock it down, or whatever. Just say simply, well, he said what he said. She said what she said. If you want a further explanation of what all that means, contact that person.
This when I was 6 or 7.
I talked to Carla Hayden, the current Librarian of Congress, to learn more about the exhibit. This exhibition, Rosa Parks in Her Own Words, gives you the impression, that title gives you the impression that there's a story that's been told about Rosa Parks, but it's not quite the whole story.
People have a view of Rosa Parks as this very sedate woman with a purse, and that's the iconic image, and she was just tired. And what this exhibit does is show you that there was so much more to Rosa Parks in terms of her belief in civil rights, her determination, and also the hardships that she endured because of that.
Do you think she was concerned that she had become a one-dimensional figure? Because she must have seen herself described as a demure seamstress and thought, what the heck? That's not me.
And I think that when you look at the photographs in the exhibit, you look at her writings, you also can imagine that every now and then she probably had a very small smile when she thought about that. You get to know Rosa Parks as a person and not as an icon. And she is so relatable in that way. You feel like you're visiting one of your grandmothers or your aunt, and you want to hear more from her, and you just start speaking in a different way when you get into the exhibit as well.
Who was she as a little girl?
She was feisty.
Feisty.
And the anecdote of her being just a little bit, not violent, but she thought about it.
And it becomes clear as you walk through the exhibit that her family were feisty people. These were not folks who sit by and let things happen to them.
And when you think about what was going on in the 50s, I was alive then, and in fact, I talked to my 88-year-old mother recently, and she remembered in 1955 we were in Tallahassee, Florida, and things were pretty rough at that time. And so to have a young person with this determination to fight for rights and to be part of a movement was brave. Took a lot of courage.
There was the risk of physical harm. She would have known that.
Yes. And at that point, you get a sense that she was making a decision, a conscious decision, that she was going to do what she could to help others, and she was going to take the risk.
Which is a lot gutsier, frankly, than just refusing to get up, than just saying I'm tired.
And that's what we hope that people will get from the exhibit, and that they will realize that she was embraced by a Stokely Carmichael and younger activists and Angela Davis's mom, and she
Lights of the Black Power movement.
She participated.
She wrote a lot. The exhibition is called Rosa Parks in Her Own Words, and I thought that was metaphorical, but in fact, she wrote a lot. She wrote letters. She kept what looked like diary entries. What in there surprised you? Did you read anything that surprised you?
Well, the strength that comes through, but also the forcefulness in her writing that comes through, and the repetition, and it's almost a stream of consciousness aspect. And so she's demure, she's ladylike, but in her writing you can see that there were these deep feelings and emotions that she was expressing.
And yet hardly a picture where she's not smiling, and I found that impressive. She seems to have a cheerful heart. I had not seen, I'd seen the pictures of her around the time of the boycott. She would have been in her early 40s. We see pictures of her younger and older, and then much older. And she has a serenity about her, doesn't she?
And she seems to enjoy being very well presented, and there's a beautiful video and a photograph of her in a gorgeous gown, floor length, kind of sequined and lace, and it's pink, her favorite color, and she is just happy as a lark. She just looks wonderful at the Essence Award, and she's just beautiful. And you can see that was something that made her happy.
Your colleague, Adrienne Cannon, the curator, described Rosa Parks in our interview as both a militant and a radical. Lots of people when they're young can be described that way. Was Rosa Parks that way in her 80s as she aged?
She certainly was, and you can see her, as I mentioned, with Stokely Carmichael and in other instances where she's with people who are doing groundbreaking things, presidential candidates, Jesse Jackson. So she was active politically, and she was right up to the minute. She was at the Million Man March and participated in that. So Rosa Parks kept her hand in the game a little bit.
We don't in any way at any time teach you to turn the other cheek.
Series of video essays talking about the myth of Black American cowardice without placing a light on foundational Black American female woman contribution. It's as simple as that. Let's move on. Let's get to the information. We're not going to be here all night long. We're going to give you sources. It's up to you to go and dig and flip the pages, but we giving information from a counter-racist perspective. That is what we do here on People Activity Radio. Rosa Parks. There was a clip played about the exhibition at the Library of Congress, highlighting Rosa Parks in her own words, and I quote, let me paraphrase. I ain't quoting. Let me paraphrase. Rosa Parks mentioned in some of her writings that she would sit up burning midnight oil. And she remembers in particular sitting with her grandfather in Tuskegee, Alabama, shortly after World War I, when white terror domination, domestic terrorism ratcheted up because there was militarily trained foundational black Americans who participated in the military, who came back looking for some compensatory action, immediate compensatory retribution or reparations for their participation in foreign wars. So you would have all these skirmishes in the United States because you had white supremacists that wanted to disarm and try to remove the black self-respect out of the foundational black American veterans. So you have all these racial clashes that they call racial riots, which were attempted racial dislocation, ethnic cleansings, attempted land grabs by the white supremacists. You've heard this over and over on P.A.R. We don't need to dig deep into that, but under that context, Rosa Parks says she will burn midnight oil sitting up with her granddaddy shortly after World War I in Tuskegee, Alabama, doing fire watch on post as she was a little 8-year-old girl. And she said that she hoped and prayed and wished that a Klans member would come into their home because she wanted to see her granddaddy pop one. And she said, if a Klans member entered our property or our home, they would surely die that night. Now, what does that tell you? What does that tell me? What does that tell us as foundational black Americans? You are listening to a woman who we know as the woman who refused to get up, who tried to tell, and everybody tried to tell her she was tired. No, she wasn't tired. She was practicing counter-racist codification, which she did not remove herself from the seat, which was in the black section of the bus. What they wanted her to do was, because the white section was filled, they wanted her to get up from the assigned section for people who were classified as black after she done worked all day, after her ancestors were the foundation of this country, built this country for free of charge, after her ancestors were foundational black American veterans and saved this country from oblivion, from the Confederacy. They wanted her, Rosa Parks, who come from family members who had no problem returning fire with fire from her own testimony in her own writings. If a Klansman would enter our property or enter our home, he would surely die that night. She was raised by that. Not no cheek turning. You understand me? So when you understand who we are and where we come from and how we are here, if you are classified as black at any point, even to today, you have to maintain a militant disposition because you are under attack in all areas of people activity. The sooner you understand this, the easier it will be to codify your survival and your existence. Surely if a Klans member entered our home, they would die that night. She knew granddaddy was gonna pop one. What the brother said on the movie, Pop Go the Weasel. What was that, Players Club? But I digress. We do not come from no chumps. We do not come from no cowards. We do not come from no cheek turners. If we did, we would have been wiped off this planet already. We wouldn't exist in the country. You understand me?